There's a lot of stuff out there in the marketplace, but there's very few brands that are building products that are unique and designed for this audience. So the mood and mind health audience, it's a $24 billion market. There's plenty of players in and around it, but a lot of them are focusing on men or they're focusing on the TikTok generation, building out pretty more lifestyle brands that aren't really as focused on efficacy. It's much more of a marketing play. And so while there are competitors, we're playing in a space that has massive opportunity and massive need because we really want to serve these women. And uniquely, it's by a millennial mom founder who struggles with a lot of these issues personally. So I can talk to it in a much more unique and specific way than other folks in and around the space.
What if the truth came in a gel cap and we could just pop it in our mouths and forget about it? Well, it doesn't, and we can't. But we can laugh in the face of reality while plotting our survival. Welcome to the Truth Tastes Funny podcast. I am your host, Hirsch Redpun, and if my guests can handle the truth, so can you. Open wide, folks. Here it comes. With me today on Truth Tastes Funny is Rachel Sanders. Rachel is the founder and CEO of Rootine, and that's a brand offering science-backed supplements and at-home lab testing. She also hosts the Smart Health podcast, and she has a following of over 100,000 that follow her on social and follow her programs and products. So we're very excited to have her here on Truth Tastes Funny. Rachel, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's great to have you. We talked a little bit before the recording. You are focused primarily, I mean, in the broader sense, on women's mental health and really, women in their 30s, 40s, 50s that are struggling with everything from sleep deprivation to depression. Tell us a little bit about your backstory rather than me get into it and keep giving you these accolades for what you've done. But I'd rather you share your backstory a little bit with us.
Yeah, happy to go into it. So going way back, I grew up in a household where holistic health was really something I did every single day. So I was looking at everything across nutrition and lifestyle and exercise way back. And so it was really ingrained in me. And when I started struggling with some health issues in my early 20s, early in my career, I was working a lot. I was really stressed. I was burnt out. I went to the supplement aisle, went back to the supplement aisle, and was just shocked at the number of options and the very little innovation that I had seen over the number of decades that I had been going there. And it was really very different from what I was seeing in my daily job, which was looking at healthcare tech and healthcare service companies and seeing how much innovation across data science and technology that was really being poured into healthcare services and helping patients feel better faster. And I really said, why can't we take what's happening on the healthcare side of things and apply it to the more holistic health to help people not get sick in the first place? And that's really where Rootine was born from. It's about helping people or creating better solutions, smarter solutions for everyone's most vibrant health, starting with supplements and at-home lab testing. And as you mentioned, one of the core problems that we're really solving right now and that we've seen in the market is that women, millennial and Gen X women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are experiencing this unprecedented mental wellness crisis where, especially post-pandemic, they are more stressed, they're more overwhelmed, and they're sleeping worse. They're fatigued at a 4x rate to men and dealing with a lot of daily symptoms, whether it's unwanted weight gain, gut issues, skin issues, that can often tie back to hormonal imbalances and imbalances with cortisol specifically. And that's not just a woman problem. That's a lot of everybody problem has cortisol imbalance. And I personally experienced a lot of these issues myself as I was going through kind of becoming the experience of becoming a mom and then having a second baby and trying to lose weight and having issues with cortisol. And that was really what inspired a lot of these new products. So our products that we're really focused on today are functional drink mixes for sleep, stress, and focus. They are powder supplements, clinician formulated, clean label, and meant to work really fast. So most people are feeling the effects in about 20 minutes, regardless of the product that you're taking, which we're really excited about.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I have to ask is, this is kind of a stereotype of men and women, but men, and I know it to be true of myself, Men will have no problem complaining when they're not sleeping, when something hurts, when they're overworked or they're overstressed. Women quite often, and this is true of women in my family, will not complain and will kind of just soldier through a lot of stuff and are also slower to go to the doctor, to go. They just will often neglect their mental health or their stress. Is that something that you've found, and what if so, what are you doing to combat that?
Yeah, that's definitely the case. And there's some quotes. I think CNN, there was a report out that this is the first time that health for millennials is declining since the silent generation. So for a long, long time ago. And I've seen, to your point, like I've seen quotes and stuff on Instagram where it's like when a man gets sick, he finally understands what it was like to have birthed a child. And like that's the difference. And so you really see where women, they'll even say like, I don't feel stressed, but you can see their cortisol levels, you can see all their symptoms, and their body is just breaking down from the stress. But mentally, they're like, I can handle more, I can handle more, I can handle more, until eventually they crack. And that's happening now. And people are trying to figure out how to reverse the chronic fight or flight, the chronic stress that they've been under for years. And it takes a really long time to do that. And so waking up, paying attention to not only the common stressors, whether it's your kids or your partners or your work, but the not so common more hidden stressors, where it's everything from packaged food to unnatural light to the news cycles to looking at your phone in the morning or right before you go to bed. There's so many things that are coming at us, disruptions in our day-to-day lives that add and pile on to that stress in a way that we really haven't seen for any other generation.
Now, your message and your product and stuff are clearly breaking through. I mean, you've had, millions and millions of views on social media. Your stuff has appeared in Forbes and on a lot of podcasts. And I mean, it's not that certainly that you're not getting covered. What are some of the things that are happening in the public consciousness, in the mood, the mood right now? What is the mood? We've heard a lot of lip service about mental health. What's the mood out there right now?
Yeah, and we're specifically looking at that like mood and mind health, where there's so many different ways to go at it. And a lot of our products are supporting restful sleep. They're supporting healthy cortisol and healthy stress response, supporting that mental clarity that between sleep, stress, and focus help you live a happier, healthier, more productive life, which overall is really good for you and your mental state and your mood, etc. And in terms of the public consciousness, so one of the things that I've seen and what I really like to do is offer simple tips, tricks, and tools that actually fit into your daily life. We're seeing a lot of stuff across social of 20 somethings, early 20 somethings talking about their skincare routines and how they have glass skin, or here's how you solve like your stress when you're 21. And as a 30 something, as a 40 something, as a 50 something, you're just like, how they don't have stress. Like they don't know what stress actually looks like. Or you have like males talking about their male biohackers talking about their 2-hour morning routine. And that's just not something that working women or just women in general have time to do. They have, especially in these age groups, they have kids, they're taking care of aging parents, they're trying to advance in their careers, they're trying to stay on top of their health. They need these like simple solutions that are effective, that are science-backed and actually worked. And that's the piece that's really resonating. So not only is my content combining the science-backed and the efficacy, making it more accessible through my own story, but our products are doing the same thing, where they're combining science-backed ingredients, clinician formulas, we're investing in clinical trials, but we're bringing it in a product that's affordable, that's easy to take on the go, and that actually works really, really fast. So we created something called Love at First Sip. So you're tasting it and you're feeling it within that first dose, which people want. I mean, these people are busy. Like they don't want to wait around for a month to feel something. They want something at their door tomorrow, and they want to feel it right away.
Well, you hit on something that I was already gonna ask, but it really sets up that point well. Number one, that there's so many products out there, and as you know, all you have to do is think about something, and ad will pop up on Instagram or whatever it is. And I've been in the advertising business for 30 years, and still when I look at stuff, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And you just want so badly to believe in remedies and to believe that this one is going to help. And so the notion that you can love at first sip, that you can actually try it, experience it, and not have to wait 3 to 6 weeks to have any kind of benefit or reaction is unusual. Has that been a challenge that there's so much noise and other stuff out there in the marketplace?
There's a lot of stuff out there in the marketplace, but there's very few brands that are building products that are unique and designed for this audience. So the mood and mind health audience, it's a $24 billion market. There's plenty of players in and around it, but a lot of them are focusing on men, or they're focusing on the TikTok generation, building out pretty more lifestyle brands that aren't really as focused on efficacy. It's much more of a marketing play. And so while there are competitors, we're playing in a space that has massive opportunity and massive need, because we really want to serve these women. And uniquely, it's by a millennial mom founder who struggles with a lot of these issues personally. So I can talk to it in a much more unique and specific way than other folks in and around the space.
Yeah. And this is not that audience, but you have also in the younger, the like tweens and even younger, starting with all of this face care. That's become I have a child in that demo, and so I know like that's become a huge market, which has the potential to be great if you could get in there with really good health regimens, get in there with really, positive ways to set them up both in terms of their self-image and in terms of their self-care. And also in terms of mental health. If like the idea of kids focusing on taking care of themselves is great, but they feel like they're doing all this great stuff for their skin and but a lot of it's just, cosmetic, literally cosmetic, like it's just not really doing anything. But I was going to ask you about the stress prone generation, where the pandemic, which is why this podcast started, because it messed everybody up and it threw everybody off and it made it hard to cope and it gave us something new to cope with. And I think in the aftermath, what's happened is a little bit of whitewashing, in the sense that people feel like, and I'm guilty of it myself, because I changed my whole business model after COVID and I'm much happier. And, a lot of people were like, well, I got to take stock. I got to, decide that this isn't how I wanted to live my life. I changed this and I changed that. And so silver lining, blah, blah, blah. But I think the trauma of the pandemic has somewhat receded, as things do, into the ethers. What do you think that women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are struggling with as an aftermath of the pandemic that hasn't gone away?
A lot, right? So I think the pandemic was the start. I mean, there's always been a really long, let's talk news cycles. There's always been a pretty harsh news cycle, but I would say starting in 2020, our news cycle has been astronomically worse than it's been previously. I mean, we're talking like crazy global crises, we're talking wars, and just like looking at your phone, looking at your social media. There's now more creators, there's more people coming with more polarizing content. The combination is just creating this constant cortisol spike. So if you're someone who wakes up and picks up their phone and looks at social media, you're probably going to see something you don't want to see, whether it's from the news or from a friend or from some influencer you follow, because the more polarizing the content is, the more the news cycle can kind of get you, the better their views. And so that's where contents really come. And that's really a stressful thing that everybody is dealing with, especially women. And then I would say there's also a generation and the trauma, to your point, of people who are raising kids before and through the pandemic. I don't think we're over that yet. I
No.
personally had a baby in January of 2020. And so right as we were 2 months away from, or like 2 months in, we were ready to open up the world. We were starting to sleep again. That's when everything hit. And so we were kind of locked down for a year and a half. And I swear some of her behaviors today, and like I call it the pandemic babies, they're different. The kids that went through elementary school during the pandemic are different. The kids that went through high school, they have these different experiences, and us as parents are helping them through that and dealing with that in a way that I have a son who's a year and a half, and he's not having that same kind of early childhood experience that my daughter did.
Yeah. I mean, one of my daughters, it happened. She was in kindergarten when it happened. And it's like, you know, the fallout from it, first of all, there was very visible, socialization and other issues that just learning stuff that didn't happen. That's just a
Yeah.
reality. You can't, any parent that didn't have an appreciation of of nursery and elementary school teaching would change their tune after going through the pandemic for a little while, where we had to homeschool kids and try to get them to focus or try to get them on Zoom or whatever it might be. But the bottom line is the fallout was there. Now they're able to bounce back because, at a certain point, I also had a teenager. What happened like in her freshman year of junior high. It's like that also messed everything up socially, education. There's just a lot to work back from. And I think that it's just something that it's another good argument for self-care when it comes to parents. What do you think now in terms of the changes that people have made in their work choices and environment? Are you seeing a lot of women in the demographics that you generally work with who have gone from, let's say, working in corporate in high stress environments to try to work maybe in some lower stress environments? I mean, entrepreneurism isn't necessarily a cure-all for corporate stress, right?
I
You
think it's
know?
the opposite.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
shifts have you observed?
A lot of the women that are in my community, that are in my audience, that we serve at Routine, they're ambitious women. So they're looking to advance their career in whatever way that looks. So maybe she's a stay-at-home mom and she wants to earn extra income. So she's doing various options, whether she's working from home, becoming a digital creator, et cetera, or she's a finance professional who is trying to level up and get a promotion. And so they have goals in terms of how things have changed. I think the work from home movement and like the remote work movement has opened up. I think it also has added more opportunity for women. But to your point on entrepreneurship, I think one of the naive things that was happening a little bit during the pandemic and still today is there's a lot of noise across here's how you make $1 million in your first month of like doing XYZ online. And there's a lot of stress around starting a business. I mean, it's not easy to become an entrepreneur, whatever kind of business, whether it's services, whether you're VC backed, whether it's B2B, it doesn't matter. There's always a lot of extra stress and it revolves around you. So that makes whatever corporate stress you had, where it's like, oh, well, it's not actually mine. You don't have that outlet. And so that's also happening too.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, like, there's no real easy way out of ambition.
No.
It's not necessarily that women or men it's been foisted upon them, this culture. A lot of people just want to achieve things and they want to accomplish things, many of which will help make the world a better place. It's just a lot of pressure, and the pressure, some of it's self-inflicted, some of it's just life happens, pandemics happen, all that stuff. Is there a mindset piece of this that you, in addition to the supplements, the routine and so forth, is there a mindset part of this that you engage in?
100%. So outside of just the products, it's mindset, it's also nutrition, it's also overall like lifestyle habits. How are you sleep? What's your evening routine? How are you sleeping? How are you dealing with the news? All of those things. What are your self-care practices? And a mindset which I've seen more and more people trying to adopt, especially specifically in my generation that grew up in the kind of boss babe world where it's like anti-boss babe culture, more like anti-hustle culture, trying to set more boundaries, trying to accept saying no and understanding where that goes. I'm not perfect with that. I'm one of those that's ambitious and will work forever. But that's like one piece of it. But it's also about long term. So if I go back to my postpartum weight loss journey, which is a big piece of how all of this is playing together, where I had 50 plus pounds to lose. It was the most weight I'd ever had to lose in my entire life, despite being really healthy and eating well, working out. I struggled. And then I figured out about my cortisol, started doing cortisol balancing exercises, and learned like my cortisol was so out of whack. It had taken years, right? And 50 pounds is not something you lose in a day. So you
No.
really have to have this long-term consistency mindset where you have to say, okay, I'm not going to fix this tomorrow. It's not a crash diet. It's not a crash solution. I'm not going to be able to make crazy waves in a couple of days. So what are the simple tips, tricks, habits that I can start to adopt today and get good at? And then I can add some more later, and give yourself a year, give yourself 2 years. Just make it so it becomes more part of your lifestyle and it's a journey versus giving yourself critiques if it's, all right, I want to lower my cortisol or I want to be less stressed in a week. There's things you can do to be less stressed in a week, but your full hormonal imbalance, your full cortisol imbalance isn't going to get solved in a week if it's really bad. Your weight loss is not going to go in a week if you've got 50 pounds to lose.
Yeah. And I guess that for people who are ambitious and determined, we're also a results oriented society. So
Correct.
people are like, well, okay, I want it done tomorrow. I want it.
Yeah.
I don't have time to focus on weight loss or focus on even fitness beyond a certain amount. I need it, I need it. That's one of the things that existed in the 1980s that hasn't really gone away at all, as far as I can tell. Maybe it is even back more now that in post COVID with a boon and kind of entrepreneurship. Now you have also the accountability where people are literally, I got to do this, I got to get this, I got to self motivate, which often means self criticism and holding your own feet to the fire and trying to. So two things I would like you to share where people can find you, but also kind of close with a thought for the audience in terms of some things they can do now to take a little bit better care of themselves.
I'll start with the first because this is one of my favorite questions. So I'll give people 3 super simple tips that are really affordable to do. So the first is, if you drink coffee in the morning, try to hydrate first. I do 40 ounces of water with electrolytes before I have my coffee. Something super simple, easy habit, and really makes a difference in your overall hydration. The second is, if you're dealing with high stress, which most people are, consider your phone use around waking and going to bed. So I like to put my phone down 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes before I go to bed. And I try not to touch it for at least 15 to 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how good I am in the morning, because that allows you to wake up and settle down without the risk of having this like barrage of information or something, or the blue light or something you don't want to see. So you're not spiking your cortisol right away. And then as I've dug into the research, it's amazing how much nature really impacts our health. And so trying to get out in the sunlight more and just exploring nature, walk outside, go outside for 10 minutes after lunch, go outside for 10 minutes in the morning. We know that's really helpful for health. But those 3 things, hydration, phone use, and going outside, are really cheap, easy, and won't take up a lot of time of your day.
That's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
and now close us out with where people can find you so that they can
It,
get even
yeah.
more benefit.
You can follow me on Instagram at Rachel Soap Sanders, which is SOPSANDERS. And you can also find my website and access to my newsletter all in my link in bio on Instagram. I'm also on all of the other socials with a similar handle. And then you can find more about Rootine on our website. It's Rootine, ROOTINE.co. And you can find all of our products there or on Amazon.
Thanks so much for tuning into Truth Tastes Funny. If you enjoyed the experience, please leave a 5-star review and share this podcast with your friends.